Ryan Blaney finally breaks through, and Kyle Busch falls further beneath the playoff cut line. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. Iowa Speedway, the inaugural NASCAR Cup Series event at the 7/8 of a mile short track. Yes, it is technically a short track, just barely. Ever since Iowa Speedway was opened in 2006, fans have clamored for a NASCAR Cup Series date. Tonight, their wishes were finally answered. We've got so much to cover tonight. First things first, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I know my dad was watching tonight's race and had a big old smile on his face seeing his new favorite driver, Ryan Blaney, get the win. We were both sort of Matt Kenseth fans when I was a kid growing up, so it's weird now that my dad has a new favorite driver. I still haven't quite gotten used to it. But happy Father's Day to everyone out there. That's a great place to start. Well, not Father's Day so much, but Ryan Blaney, the defending NASCAR Cup Series champion, breaks through to get his first win of 2024. Redemption after suffering a heartbreaking loss 2 weeks ago at Gateway, running out of fuel on the final lap. This is the second win in 3 weeks for Team Penske. It was Austin Cindric who took advantage in St. Louis. Ryan Blaney gets it done tonight. Shoot, if you go back just a few weeks, Joey Logano won the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro. Team Penske is peaking earlier than we're used to. Shaping up to be a very exciting summer, but focusing in on Ryan Blaney, he needed this one bad. He entered this race 12th in the regular season standings, has been free-falling in recent weeks, with only one playoff point to his credit. Tonight, he adds 5 via the victory, a 6th including that stage win in stage 1. His playoff point total is now 7, and Blaney vaults himself back into the top 10 in the regular season standings. This was a huge night. The 12 car was fast tonight, especially once the sun fully set. Smart move by Jonathan Hassler taking 2 tires when he did, prioritizing track position, because as it got later in the evening and the track cooled off and the pace increased, it seemed like tires were wearing out less and less and less. I mean, Ryan Blaney ran like the final 100 plus laps of this race on the same set of left side tires. I know a lot of guys were blowing right fronts, but we saw tire failures of all sorts throughout the weekend. That was a bold call, but considering how tracks usually change day into night, I think it was a smart move. Clearly, I mean, hindsight is 2020. Clearly, it was a smart move on Jonathan Hassler's part. It largely worked though because the 12 was fast. Like the opening run of this race, we'll get to him in a moment, Kyle Larson drove off with the lead, but Ryan Blaney was the only other car remotely in the same zip code. Blaney and Larson were 10 seconds ahead of third place in stage 1. So once Kyle Larson had his issue, Ryan Blaney, in my opinion, was clearly the second best all-around call. Aggressive strategy worked in their favor this time. Ryan Blaney gets the big win. Congratulations to the 12 team. It's been a long time coming. Now, before we take a look at the other top finishers, let's discuss Kyle Larson. I believe the 5 was the fastest car tonight. He won stage 2, but restarted stage 3 in 4th, thanks to a couple drivers staying out. I think Brad Keselowski took 2 tires. And on the ensuing restart, Larson, middle of 3 wide, almost 4 wide, gets clipped by Daniel Suarez, wrecks into Denny Hamlin. This ruined Larson's night. At first glance, just looking at the replay, it's pretty obvious that Daniel Suarez gets sideways, chases the car up the hill, clips Kyle Larson. Clearly an accident, but unfortunately ruined Kyle Larson's day. NBC did this. If you back it up, though, Kyle Larson, very aggressive driver, did squeeze into a very tight 3 wide opening. A bold move, the kind of bold move that he's known for. He did, I guess, in some way put himself in a vulnerable position that unfortunately led to him getting taken out. I don't put the blame for the wreck on Kyle Larson, but this is who Kyle Larson is. He is going to take risks sometimes that other drivers aren't comfortable taking. Sometimes that leads to great 3 wide moves, clutch passes for the lead late in the race, important track position. Other times, it works against you in this case. Wrong place, wrong time when Daniel Suarez got sideways. I can't blame Kyle Larson for the wreck. I know it was an aggressive move, but that move works probably 9 times out of 10 without incident. I guess my only point is that this will be something worth watching come playoff time, when every race, every position matters even more. We saw in the playoffs last year. I know he still got to Phoenix in the end, but at Homestead, fighting for every inch during green flag pit stops, wrecked into the tire barriers. If Kyle Larson is going to take these kinds of risks, sometimes he's going to have to live with the consequences, even if this wreck wasn't explicitly his fault. fault. You know what they say in racing, I guess sometimes you make your own luck. You put yourself in more or less vulnerable positions. So tonight doesn't matter in the slightest, but going forward, especially come playoff time, it's something to watch with Kyle Larson every single year. We'll take a look at the updated playoff grid in a few moments, but first, here's a look at the top 15 finishers. William Byron scores a second place finish. He was trying to chase down Blaney towards the end, but just couldn't get any closer than like 6 or 7 tenths of a second, despite being on 4 fresh tires compared to Blaney's 2. I guess, as the track cooled off, the left side tire advantage became less and less noticeable. I think Blaney was just a faster car than Byron all night anyways. It was hard to overcome that track position deficit. But still a really good run tonight for William Byron and another great run for Chase Elliott. Somehow he continues to improve on his already series best average finish. Another top 5 for Chase, well done. Finishing 4th, the lone Toyota in the top 10. Once again, carrying the banner for Joe Gibbs Racing is Christopher Bell. Again, really strong long run car. This race ended with a long run. He drove from 14th to 4th. Something like that. Strong performance from Christopher Bell, but I'll pause here for a moment. Toyota for the second week in a row. Just a disaster. Sonoma was rough. Martin Truex Jr. running out of gas on the last lap. Denny Hamlin didn't even get a chance to compete, blowing a motor on lap 2. Ty Gibbs smacked the inside wall in turn 11. Tonight was different, but was still not good. Martin Truex Jr. apparently finished 15th. I barely saw him tonight. Meanwhile, Denny Hamlin's car was just evil, which shocked me. Denny Hamlin's finishes on short tracks this year, he's got a win at the Clash, he won at Bristol, he won at Richmond. I was expecting, at worst, a 6th place finish tonight. Instead, he plummeted, basically from the drop of the green flag. He got lapped multiple times tonight. That caution that came out late in stage 2 saved Denny, gave him free track position. That still wasn't enough. He got caught up in the Kyle Larson crash at the start of stage 3. Not even all that free track position could save Denny Hamlin. Just a disaster for Denny, really hurting his regular season championship hopes. Now, he was bailed out tonight by, of course, Larson getting caught up in that same incident, but Larson out-earned him in the stages. Still a rough night. An opportunity gone to waste. 17th for Grimace, 22nd for the Hamburglar. And what's going on with Legacy Motor Club? I didn't expect them to be great this year, but I expected them to improve throughout the season. Somehow they've gotten worse. They both qualified outside of the top 30. Eric Jones had more issues than I could count tonight. Felt like he was blowing a tire every time I looked up at my TV. And John Hunter Nemechek, what was this? I get you're mad that Gregson blocked you a bit, but he just went in there and cleaned him out. Toyota. Christopher Bell, for the second straight week, the lone bright spot. At least they didn't blow any motors this weekend, so baby steps, thumbs up. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. scored a top 5. Let's get positive once again. How about that? Again, playing the right strategy. Knew how the track was going to change. Well done. Joey Logano 6th. Josh Berry finishes 7th. For a few moments there in stage 3, I thought we might celebrate a Josh Berry victory. Stewart-Haas Racing goes to victory lane in their final Cup Series season. The headlines were starting to write themselves. They chose 4 tires at the end, as opposed to Blaney and others' 2-tire call. Cost them some track position, bad restart, still good finish, but I thought this car had top 5 speed at times tonight. Silly season beginning to take shape. If you ask me, Josh Berry, Rodney Childers, that dynamic duo who've said they want to stick together. Rodney Childers has said, quote, Josh Berry is not going to fail under my watch. That duo improved their free agent standing, in my opinion. I know funding is always the question, but man, if I'm a team like Front Row Motorsports, I would throw the bag, everything I have, at Rodney Childers and Josh Berry. Josh Berry's a capable driver, but bringing a veteran championship guy like Rodney Childers into a still growing organization like Front Row, that's exactly what that team needs. I would do everything in my power to make that happen. And if you lose out to, let's just say, a Joe Gibbs who has an open seat. I know reports are leaning towards Briscoe, but Joe Gibbs, they've got the money, especially if Kroger comes on board. They could throw the bag at Rodney Childers. That would just seem unfair. It'd be like Kevin Durant joining the Warriors, but, something to keep an eye on. There's rumors about 2311. Who else might have a seat open? Maybe the Wood brothers will have a seat open. You can keep Barry and Childers with Ford. Give them some Penske parts and pieces to play with. I'm just saying, Rodney Childers and Josh Berry, increased their free agent value, I guess. They climbed up the draft boards, if you will, tonight. Almost got the win. Top 10 effort. Well done. Good top 10 for Alex Bowman. That's what he does. Both Trackhouse drivers. I know they got into some incidents tonight, but they both ran top 10 much of the evening. Finished 9th, 11th. Not too bad. Top 10 for Brad Keselowski. Good run for Todd Gilliland. Justin Haley. For a bit there, I thought he was going to improve on his season best finish. Ran top 10 early on. Lost all that track position due to an equipment interference penalty. I thought that was the death sentence. No, the 51 came roaring back, was running top 10 in stage 3. What a performance from Justin Haley. Every few weeks, we spotlight him because he's doing great things in that car. Top 15 for the rookie Carson Hocevar. How about that? There's a good look at some of your top finishers. I want to touch on a few not so notable finishers. Really just Kyle Busch. Yeah, I'm sorry. We do have to talk about Kyle Busch again. Kyle Busch is battling for a playoff spot, and he's battling to extend his 1 win per year streak. He continues to take huge hits. Not literally so much, but figuratively. Team morale at RCR has to be at its lowest point in years. You have Austin Dillon, who has run a little better in recent weeks since Justin Alexander's come back, but is still like 30th in points on one hand, and then on the other, the honeymoon period with Kyle Busch is officially over. Recent finishes of 27th, 15th, 35th, 12th at Sonoma last week, ran out of gas, got dumped by Ross Chastain, should have been a top 5. Another blow tonight. Looked to have a top 10 run going, yet a parts failure, maybe some damage from some contact on track. Not exactly sure what led to the initial issue that sent the 8 to the garage, but the 8 finished this race in the garage. KFB scores a 35th place run. Only 1 stage point earned. That's not good enough. Not even close. And to add insult to injury, we'll talk about this more this week, but Kyle Busch's comments to the media this weekend, gosh. He straight up said that if Joe Gibbs or Hendrick welcomed him back, he'd probably go there. Like, he made it sound like he's stuck at RCR because of the contract he signed. How do you think that makes Richard Childress feel? Or your crew chief, Randall Burnett? Or your pit crew, who you chastised the first 17 weeks of the year, although fair enough, often they've deserved it. Team morale at RCR? Shoot, might be even lower than morale at Stewart-Haas. I'm only half kidding. Take a look at the playoff picture now. Kyle Busch was 17th on the grid, only 8 points out. Now he's 18th on the grid, 31 points out. Devastating blow to Kyle Busch's playoff hopes. I hope they can turn things around because, like I always say, Kyle Busch is interesting. I want to watch and root for interesting come playoff time. But someone needs to step up and show real leadership over there and turn this ship around. This isn't a Stewart-Haas situation where everyone's looking for new jobs. They know this is a sinking ship. Like I said, Kyle Busch is under contract for next year. You have a Hall of Famer still supposedly in his prime driving this race car. Randall Burnett with Tyler Reddick a couple years ago looked like a championship contender. There is no reason why a Randall Burnett, Kyle Busch-led race team with RCR and Chevrolet equipment can't be a playoff contender, can't be a round of 8 contender. That's where they should be. The ship is not sinking. You two are partnered up for at least another year and a half. So I hope they can figure it out. You can blame crappy next-gen parts all you want, but it's not just about tonight's race. This has been several weeks. This has been all year. This has been going back to the second half of last season. Things have been trending this way for quite some time. Hopefully they can figure it out. Woo! The Groovy Gauge, man, always surprising me. The Groovy Gauge is powered by my friends at Electric E-Bikes. Head to electricebikes.com to find a ride that suits you. The inaugural NASCAR Cup Series race at Iowa. I'll talk about NBC's coverage in a moment, but just the spectacle of this event. It looked great on TV, sold out within a day of tickets going on sale. Weather was beautiful, night race, energy. Really awesome to see those fans rewarded with a cup date after all these years, and I'm glad they got to see a good race. All the hubbub coming in was about the repave, the partial repave. Ooh, did they ruin what made this track special? It wasn't your typical Iowa. It was not the Iowa Speedway many have come to know. It was different, but I thought it was still pretty good. The next-gen car just works at repaves. NBC made a comment at some point during this race how Iowa's sort of like an intermediate. It's closer to an intermediate track than it is a short track in some ways. Where does the next-gen excel? Intermediates. Despite the partial repave, there were 2, almost 3 full lanes to choose from, and not one lane was particularly more dominant than the others at any point tonight. It was much easier to pass than I thought it would be, especially earlier in the race when I think the warmer temperatures caused tires to wear out a little bit more quickly. I think you saw more fall off, more passing opportunities. If I were to make one change, I know I praised the night race energy, but going forward, if we're going to keep Iowa on the schedule, which we absolutely should, maybe make this a day race just to see how it would impact the tires, especially on that fresh repaved surface. Might make for better racing from start to finish. As it was, stage 3, especially towards the end, a little harder to make moves. Not for everyone, but for some. That's just a nitpick though. All around, I think this was probably, at least off the top of my head, the second best short oval race in the next gen era, behind only Bristol Spring from this past April or March or whenever it ran. This was up there. We weren't talking about dirty air, only one groove, shifting. This was good racing. Lots of passing. I'm going to give this race an 80% on the groovy gauge. Let me know if you agree or disagree down in the comment section below. Now, before we wrap up, I mentioned NBC, or USA Network, their first broadcast of the season. What a breath of fresh air. I tried not to be too critical of Fox this year just for the sake of being critical. I always try to be constructive. And this year with Fox, the booth wasn't the problem. They had a single stable presence in that third seat with Kevin Harvick. I thought as the year went on, they got better. They worked well. Their chemistry was great. NBC's booth tonight, even without Dale Earnhardt Jr., I thought was really good. Steve Letarte is an excellent crew chief analyst. I like Jeff Burton. And Rick Allen has cleaned things up tremendously since his first couple of years back in 2015, 2016 calling Cup races. The real difference I noticed tonight was everything else. The sound, the production. Multiple times in this race, NBC would go to 2, 3, 4, multiple split screen angles showing different battles up front, deeper in the top 10, mid-pack, trying to stay on the lead lap. I felt more like I was at the race, in the stands, choosing which battle I wanted to follow all the way around. NBC was giving me that option. Fox rarely did. And one more thing, the commercials. I felt like there were very few full screen green flag commercial breaks tonight. A lot of side-by-sides. I get that it's cable, it's USA Network, so if we compare it to FS1, I'd love to see a side-by-side between some FS1 races this year and tonight's race. How were the commercial breaks implemented? Tonight felt far less intrusive. I understand that once we get to some races on big NBC, there will be more commercial breaks naturally, so that will be a complaint, I'm sure. But for tonight at least, man, like I said, a huge breath of fresh air. I wish this team could cover all 38 NASCAR Cup Series events every single year. It feels like there's so much more care being put in behind the scenes by the folks directing, producing the broadcast than we see with Fox. Whether that's entirely true or not, I don't know, but that's how it comes across. Give me your comments down below. What'd you make of NBC USA's first Cup broadcast of the year? That's going to do it for me. Thanks for watching, y'all. A lot of fine details to tonight's race. Hope y'all enjoyed following along. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe for more NASCAR content and commentary every single day, every single week. And a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. I will see you all again tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, folks. Once again, happy Father's Day. I'll talk to you again soon.